Welcome to the Cruise Retreat Podcast. Hi, I'm Rita Perez, and I'm a travel advisor specializing in, you guessed it, cruise ship retreats. This podcast is for service-based entrepreneurs and corporate decision makers to learn more about staying everyone's favorite company with a cruise ship retreat. Ready to increase your client or employee retention? Listen in on this week's show. Surprise! Or maybe it's not such a surprise for you, but this is part 5. I made the 4-part series a 5-part series just because there's like this bonus episode, because I feel that this is very important information that you need to know for river cruising as well. And just cruising in general, but also traveling in general right now, is that you need to be flexible, especially this, I would say, through the end of 2022. It's kind of our transition period getting back into travel. And not saying that travel is hard, there are just a little bit more things to be aware of on top of, the normal COVID protocols. Different things can just kind of like exacerbate the whatever may be going on in the world. So for example, right now, my river cruise, and I will keep you posted on this, so make sure that you're following me on social media so that you can see kind of how it went, because I'm pre-recording this. My river cruise, one of the concerns we're having now is high water. And this is a general concern with river cruising, is the water levels. So like when you go ocean cruising, you don't even concern yourself with water levels. But river cruising is a little bit different because obviously you don't have as much water as when you're sailing on an ocean. Normally, the concern is low water levels for river cruising, meaning that there's not enough water for the ship to be moving on, obviously. And in those types of situations, which have happened before, they will actually need to bus you. So maybe point A, you're fine being on the ship, but then there's an area of low water level, so you have to get off the ship. The river cruise takes care of all this, so you don't have to worry about this. It's just putting the expectation out there that things are not 100%. I mean, things are not 100% perfect when we were traveling beforehand, but just to know that extra flexibility. So for my river cruise, there are actually high water levels, which poses a whole set of other different problems, but I'm putting myself in the mentality like, hey, they might need to bus us for a night or two until we're able to meet the cruise ship in a different port, and that's okay. It's not ideal, but this kind of like picture perfect vacation and everything is going to go right. 1, you probably shouldn't have that to begin with, but 2, even more so now with the craziness that is happening in the world. I mean, we're still dealing with the pandemic. We're at the tail end from what it looks like from all the reports I've seen, even though there's kind of a little bit of a jump, but that's another story. But as people start traveling more, and while people start catching up with the staffing, please just give everybody grace. Like this, they're not personal attacks on you and to deviate from what was originally said, but things always arise and things always happen, and you have to be super mindful always, but especially now, you need to have that flexibility. So that is one of the things. Water levels on a river cruise is something that could deviate your itinerary. Deviate meaning that you're not going to be sailing through a country, which is the benefit of river cruising, but you may have to go off on a bus for a little bit, and that's just as fine too, because the river cruise line is going to put you up in flippin' awesome hotels, and you're going to be taken care of, so you don't have to worry about that. Other mindful considerations right now that I kind of just wanted to share. So this is like a flexibility episode, but also a little bit of river cruising in the sense of a holistic travel journey, because things obviously are not the same as they were previously. Some of the things that I've been hearing is kind of like you have to be mindful of your flights, and you have to prepare for your flights in the sense of you may not have thought of like to bring snacks on your flights or food on your flights before. But now that's something that you may want to consider. Same thing, pillows. I mean, I always bring an airline pillow or an airplane pillow with me. But now you also have to be mindful about blankets, because do you really want to be sharing blankets with somebody else right now? Like, I just prefer to go ahead and purchase my own blanket to utilize. The airline check-in areas. So when you go to the airport, first off, like, please make sure that you have global entry. It will give you TSA pre-check. Like, I'm not even recommending TSA pre-check. I've heard TSA pre-check is kind of like coming obsolete right now too. So it's just better to go ahead and get that taken care of. Just go get your global entry. Global entry is good for 5 years. And it speeds you through the line. The difference between global entry and pre-check is that with global entry, when you come back, you kind of get a fast pass through customs. You don't have to wait in the long customs line. Other things to kind of be mindful while we're starting to travel again, especially like, again, doing the holistic approach for river cruising, because river cruising is not just river cruising. You have your airplane flight, you have your pre-hotel, you have your transfers, and then you get onto the ship. And you're all fine and dandy from there. Things that have come up for me is a lot of the changing protocols. And this, I know, can be very stressful. And that's also why you use this travel professional to make sure that you're traveling and you don't have to worry about these things. We're the ones that are worrying for you. And so obviously there's changing protocols. There have been changing protocols for the past year and a half now. It's even more changing, and we just have to stay on top of it for our clients. But that is something that you also need to be mindful of and have flexibility of. Right now, if you are vaccinated, it is definitely an easier process and less stress if you're not vaccinated. You can travel if you're not vaccinated, and there's usually just testing requirements. But especially now with the big Delta variant going on, I just put a little bit of caution, because I would hate, and this is also the importance of travel insurance, that you have booked something. Your employees or clients mean the world to you, so why don't you show them the world and a thing or two? If you're ready to take your cruise retreat idea to a working plan, you need the Cruise Retreat Toolkit, filled with calculators, templates, timelines, and more. The toolkit will get you 5 steps closer to your cruise ship retreat, and as a result of the retreat, more dedicated and motivated employees or clients. Grab it now at cruiseretreattoolkit.com and save $20 with the code podcast. And then find out that they've changed the country or destination that you're going to has changed their protocols, and you now need to be vaccinated, which means we have to cancel your trip. So I haven't seen too many stories of that, but that is something that's been going on in my mind, of especially with the Delta variant being so contagious, that may be something that countries may do. And again, I haven't seen it yet, but that is just something to be mindful of. The other thing is testing. So if you're vaccinated, you don't have to worry about testing. And when you're here in the States, you don't have to worry about testing when you go, but it's the testing when you come back that is required so that you don't have to quarantine. And normally my preferred suppliers, my cruise lines, they'll go ahead and they'll get you tested mostly complimentary. I just found out that my river cruise line does charge a nominal fee for testing, but I am not sure. And I think that is because what I'm seeing is that if a cruise line requires vaccination, they will take care of the testing. If they don't, then I'm kind of seeing some don't require payment and some do require payment. So my river cruise line is saying that you can get tested for your flight home, but it's going to cost you a fee. And what that fee is, I'm not sure. But once I do know, I'll go ahead and I'll share it. Make sure that you're following me on Instagram, because that is most likely where I will be posting my whole journey of river cruising and some of these important updates as well. One of the companies or websites that I have been finding, if you're going to be extending your stay and not sure how long that COVID test is going to be valid for, emed.com provides tests that you can pre-purchase. It looks like they come in a pack of 6, $150 for 6, and you can take those with you. I think you need an app, because when you do the test, somebody needs to be watching you, like somebody not in your travel group. So there's some technology way. I've just heard really great reviews about it from other people that are in the industry. So I thought it would be a really good share in case you're uncertain of what would happen in the scenario. Like, oh my gosh, like I tested, but now it's not good because the 3 days have passed. This may be a good buffer to have for you. So I have not used it, so I can't personally vouch for it. I just wanted to give you a resource in case you were needing that. And then the last thing I wanted to touch on is your passport. And your passport is incredibly important, for international travel. But you need to have passport times are taking like 4 months to process if you don't have a passport at all. And even if you're expediting, it's taking even like 3 months to go ahead. Everybody is backlogged because of COVID, all the offices. So if you're planning on taking a trip and you need a passport for it, make sure that you, as soon as possible, if you have your passport right now, go ahead and check. Make sure you have at least a year on that passport. If you don't have a year, I would recommend going ahead and sending that to the passport office. Just make sure it doesn't interfere with any of the trips that you have planned already. But yes, it is very crucial. And the other thing that's crucial for passports is that you need to have at least 6 months still validity on your passport for travel. Meaning that so if I was going today to Egypt, my passport would need to be valid through February of 2022, meaning it can't be expiring beforehand of that, because I could be expelled from my trip. And I don't want, obviously, for that to happen. Countries are denying if you don't have 6 months of validity at least on your passport. So if you know that your passport is expiring soon, go ahead and do that renewal and get it done. Expedited if you need to, but that needs to be done ASAP as well. These are crazy times. And I know that this wasn't a whole episode kind of dedicated to river cruising, but these are a lot of things that you need to be aware of, not only when you're river cruising, but just traveling and cruising in general right now. So if you have any questions, that is the benefit of using a travel advisor. If I'm not your travel advisor, I can't really help you outside of these podcasts because of the liability factor. But if I am your travel advisor, please reach out to me. And we can discuss what's going on with passports, your trip, river cruising, geek out on all that. I would love nothing more than to help you out, because it is really a joy to get back into travel recently. Alrighty, I hope this episode has helped with a little bit of you shaping your mindset and preparing you to be flexible for your upcoming travels. And I would look forward to talking to you next week. Have a good one. Thank you for joining me on the Cruise Retreat podcast. Please subscribe and leave the show a rating on your favorite podcast platform. And don't forget to take a look at the show notes for important information and links. See you next week.